Hi, if not now, Detroit. Happy early Hanukkah to all of you. I wish I could be there to celebrate with you all. You give me so much life. Your 2020 platform calling for every public official to commit to defunding the occupation in Palestine and fighting anti-Semitism and white nationalism is one that I can support very strongly. Please consider me as your partner here in the United States Congress, as well as back home in the 13th District. Together, I know we'll build a brighter future for all of us. In the meantime, happy early Hanukkah, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for your tireless advocacy and work for not only me, myself, and the American people, but also for my grandmother. I will look forward to seeing you all very, very soon.
Shalom, my friends. What you just watched is a video of Palestinian-American Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib wishing you a happy Hanukkah. This video is from 2019, but its powerful message still reverberates to this very day. And despite her Muslim background, Rashida Tlaib is more educated on Hanukkah than you might think. After all, she's the poster woman for the core values of America's political left, including justice and equality for people of all genders, races, ethnicities, and religions. So would you expect anything less? Rashida Tlaib clearly identifies her stance against white supremacy and anti-Semitism, which is a clear message of Hanukkah. Rashida Tlaib would never conflate the message of Hanukkah and try to use its message to demonize the state of Israel today by wrongly implying that Israel is somehow a white supremacist state that oppresses its non-white citizens. Surely Rashida Tlaib knows that Jews are not a race of people, but rather an ethno-religious group that is composed of multiple races and skin colors. Surely Rashida Tlaib knows that all races of people can even convert to become a Jew today, and that even in the Hebrew Bible, people converted to become Jews who were not born into the covenant, including King David's great-grandmother Ruth. But let's not get sidetracked. The point is that Rashida Tlaib is vehemently against white supremacy, and she surely knows that the Jews know about the evils of white supremacy all too well. But you didn't come here for a Holocaust lesson about what Hitler did to the Jews. You want to hear about the plight of the Palestinians under the Israeli apartheid system. Because that's the true message of Hanukkah, right, Rashida? I mean, that's why social justice movements like Black Lives Matter, which advocates against racism against blacks in America, are perfect parallels to the way black-skinned people are treated in Israel. Just ask Yetish Titi Ayanau, the Ethiopian Jewish woman who was the winner of the Miss Israel beauty pageant in 2013.
I can't breathe. Do you remember that? I'm shocked. So shocked by the response of Black Lives Matter regarding the terror attack situation here in Israel. Remember you screaming in the street, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. So I want to inform you that right now there is Israeli hostages in Gaza.
Now, I know the video only showed white-skinned hostages, but don't you worry, because unlike the apartheid state of Israel, Hamas does not discriminate against who it takes as its hostages. They'll take Americans, Thais, even Muslims. They don't even discriminate against women and children, and they'll even take babies hostage. Now that's what I call equality. But speaking of apartheid, the Jews living in Muslim countries prior to the birth of the State of Israel in 1948 are all too familiar with what an apartheid system looks like. Since many of the laws in Muslim countries are heavily influenced by Sharia law, the Muslim legal system described in the Muslim holy book of the Quran, the Jews experienced what it felt like to live as second-class citizens under Muslim rule. Jews and Christians were known as dhimmis, where Jews and Christians had restricted rights to practice their religions and even had to pay a discriminatory tax in a humiliating fashion according to the Quran. But don't take my word for it. Hear it from a Muslim yourself.
You're going like this to my face.
Because you're telling me you're going to dominate me and conquer the world.
Get your finger out of my face, bro. Get your finger out of my face.
What do you mean when you say that Muslims are going to dominate the world? I'm not going to be your dhimmi. I'm not going to be your dhimmi.
And you will give us the jizya.
Because I'm not getting... See, there we go. There's the extreme. There's the extreme.
We're going to take our coins. You don't belong there.
Stop running away from the subject.
That's it.
You literally said you're going to dominate the world.
Yeah, we will. And what? What are you going to do?
Mate, your empires have collapsed. The caliphates are nowhere to be seen. You come here and you say you're going to dominate the world, and we're all going to pay you a jizya. I'm not paying you nothing, mate.
You will.
We'll see if I pay you a jizya.
We'll
And then
see.
you say thank you to the British government.
But Rashida Tlaib knows that Israel is the real king of apartheid, and that the Jews and Christians actually lived peacefully under Muslim rule prior to 1948, the worst year ever in existence for everyone ever. Nothing prior to that could possibly compare, certainly not the Holocaust. We Jews and Christians are quite nostalgic for the good old days of living under Sharia law in Muslim countries as second-class citizens under the dhimmi system. Now that's how you do apartheid humanely. Just take it from this Muslim doctor who flat out told Piers Morgan that he wants Sharia law in Palestine as well as Great Britain.
I agree.
I can play the tape back if you like.
I agree with the fact that the Muslim world should have the Islamic system. Yeah, I didn't say I agree with it. I don't use words.
You
like
want
that.
full Sharia law for this country?
For this country. I'm working for, our group works for Islam, the restoration of Islam in the Muslim world.
But here,
We work to uphold Islamic values in our personal life and in the Muslim
what about,
community.
do you want
And we
Sharia
actually
law
try.
here or no?
I would love, you know what?
You'd love it?
No, I tell you what. In this last 2 months, one of the strangest things has been where people here have been looking at the people in Gaza and they've been going and looking and reading the Quran. And they've been looking at it. And I'd invite you and your audience to do that.
just to clarify.
I would do that. And they,
clarify,
and
you would
they
like
are
Sharia
not-
law here?
And they are not convinced by these
doctor.
neocon
Would you like Sharia
Islamophobic
law here?
quotes and caricatures of Islam, are they?
Actually, I don't think...
People who...
All I've done is ask you straightforward questions.
Yeah.
You've revealed your beliefs in the answers. Yeah, you have. You may not even realise what you've done, but you have.
I believe in Islamic law, and I don't believe in the caricature that you try and present of Islam.
Would you like Sharia law in this country?
I would love to see you want Sharia law in this country.
I don't want Sharia law in this country.
Well, that's your wish.
But you would.
Yeah, but I
Would you?
I believe it's the best system, but
So
I'm not working.
Would
to
you like it
establish-
in this country?
I'm not working.
Yes or no?
to say- I believe in Islamic.
Yes or no?
You know the Islamic civilization.
Yes or no?
Was the only
You'd
civilization.
be very quick to answer everything else. Yes or no?
The Islamic civilization was the only civilization that brought peace to the Middle East for Muslims, Jews, and Christians. I would love to see that system there. Wouldn't you like to see a system?
Who pays
Wouldn't
your
you like
salary?
Wouldn't you like to see a
Who
system
pays your salary?
where Muslims, Jews, and Christians would live
I don't
side
want
by
this country
side
to
in the
live
Middle
under
East?
Sharia law.
It's not talking about this. I'm talking about the Middle East.
No, but you suggested you wanted it to be under Sharia law here.
You suggested.
Do you or not?
You
Well, do you or not? What's funny?
What's funny is your approach of question.
Why?
Honestly.
Just answer the question.
Because you know why it's funny.
Yes
about
or no?
it.
You either do or you don't, right? I ask a question, the answer is yes or no. Why can't you say yes or no?
I believe in the Islamic system.
Would you like
will be
Sharia
the
law in
only-
this country?
I would love.
Yes or no?
I would love to see you want.
No, answer the question. Never mind what I want. What do you want?
I want to see the Islamic system re-established.
Would you like
in the Muslim
Sharia
world.
law in this country? Last time I'm going to
Well,
ask
if
you.
Sharia law,
Just yes or no.
if Sharia law means upholding family values, means looking after the poor,
Means no gays. No.
You heard it straight from a Muslim doctor who supports the October 7th Hamas attack against Israeli civilians, because 1948 will forever justify everything Hamas does to the Jews. So it must be true, right, Rashida? No objections from Jews here.
I guess you have never heard about the Talmud, the 1941 pogrom against Jews in Iraq, in which hundreds of Jews were killed. I guess you have never heard the story about Sol Hajoel, a Moroccan Jewish girl, only 17 years old, who was killed for refusing to convert to Islam. I guess you have never heard about the anti-Jewish riots in Aden, Yemen. I could go on, but I'm sure you get the picture. You probably know nothing or next to nothing about this topic, the ethnic cleansing of Jews within Muslim countries. There is this false narrative that, unlike in Europe, Jews enjoyed the same rights as Muslims in Muslim countries, and that, until the rise of Zionism, Jews were able to lead peaceful, happy lives in Muslim countries. That is a lie. I mean, it was better for Jews in Muslim countries than in occupied Poland in 1943, but that isn't exactly setting the bar high. The Jews were never seen as equal to Muslims in Muslim countries, not before colonial times and not after, not before the rise of Zionism and not after, not before the State of Israel was established, and definitely not after.
Jews are not equal to Muslim in a Muslim state. Your book says the reason the Jews pay the jizya is to make them belittled.
If I went to the court, for example, me and you, I'm a Muslim and you are Jew, and there is a judge now, that person is a judge and a Muslim judge, for example.
Can a Jew be a judge?
Sorry?
Can a Jew be a judge in one of these courts that's judging on Jews and Muslims? So how is it equal?
Okay, I will say to you, in a Muslim land, the Jew will not know the Quran better than the Muslims.
So why can't you go to the Jewish court and the Jewish rabbis and have the Jews judge the Muslim?
Because there is no...
There is, we call it a
Muslim
bedin.
land.
In every single Muslim land where the Jews lived, they had courts. Why can't a Jewish court judge for a Muslim if we're equal?
Because we don't believe that the Jews have the full...
Because we're not equal. You cannot say that we're equal when your courts can judge for me, but my courts can't judge for you. That is not equality. That is apartheid.
But Rashida Tlaib ain't no fool. She knows that none of this Muslim oppression against Jews could ever compare to the Nakba of 1948, that horrible day of catastrophe when Jews dared go back to their biblical Holy Land that their ancestors were exiled from over 2,000 years ago. Never mind the fact that the religion of Islam didn't come on the scene until nearly 600 years after the Jews were kicked out of the land of Israel, at that point known as Judea, after the Jews who lived there at that time, by the Romans in 70 CE. Just forget about the fact that the Muslim prophet Muhammad hadn't even been born yet and wouldn't be born until nearly 600 years later. Completely irrelevant. And while we're at it, just forget about the fact that after the Jews were forcefully expelled from Jerusalem and the rest of Judea after the destruction of the Holy Temple about 2,000 years ago in 70 CE, they were exiled to different countries around the world. According to Josephus, Munter, and other historians of the time, some were even taken to Europe as slaves of the Romans, and others were taken to literal Egypt on ships and sold as slaves, and others eventually settled in neighboring areas in the Middle East, such as Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, and even Saudi Arabia. Yes, that's right. Did you know that Jews used to live in Saudi Arabia? There were even thriving communities in Mecca and Medina. Not so anymore, as Muhammad, the founder of Islam, made sure to eradicate all of the Jews from Saudi Arabia. Well, except for a couple Jewish women who he forced to make one of his many wives, but you can read all about Muhammad's wars against the Jews in the Quran, if you're interested. But of course, as Rashida Tlaib knows very well, the erasure of Jewish existence from Saudi Arabia that reverberates to this very day doesn't count as a genocide. It doesn't count as a deliberate displacement of Jews. And the fact that only Muslims can visit Mecca and Medina today, that's right, no Jews or Christians allowed, this certainly doesn't count as apartheid. Oh no. When Muslims landlock their holiest cities and prevent all other religious groups from living there, that's certainly better than that apartheid state of Israel, which allows Christians and Muslims to live and worship in Jerusalem in addition to Jews to this very day. The dhimmi system of Sharia law is much better. No, only 1948 matters. That's the only time ever in history that any sort of apartheid was ever established in the Middle East. Jews and Christians would be much better off living under the Sharia law under those Palestinian Muslim freedom fighters known as Hamas, where they can live as second-class dhimmis in their own holy land that pre-existed Islam. That's definitely preferable to the Zionist government of Israel today, where Jews and Muslims and Christians can worship in Jerusalem already. The Muslim Sharia law system is much better and much more fair and equal, as history has shown us in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Yemen, and all the fabulous Muslim countries that treat their Jews just as kindly as Hamas treats their Israeli hostages. But Rashida Tlaib knows that the true meaning of Hanukkah is about destroying white supremacy by kicking out all those pesky Ashkenazi Jews out of Israel and sending them back to Europe. Never mind the fact that Ashkenazi Jews are simply Jews who were exiled to Europe after the destruction of the Second Temple over 2,000 years ago. Never mind the fact that Ashkenazi Jews have had a presence in the land of Israel hundreds of years before 1948, even during the diaspora, including the famous Rabbi Isaac Luria, also known as the Ari or the Arizal, who lived during the 1500s, who had Sephardic Jewish ancestry on his mother's side and Ashkenazic Jewish ancestry on his father's side. I know I don't have to explain this to Rashida Tlaib, but the story of Hanukkah is about the Jewish victory over the Syrian Greeks who tried to prevent the Jews from practicing their own religion in their own holy land of Judea. You might even say that the Syrian Greeks were trying to occupy the land of Israel from the Jews and prevent them from studying our own Torah and from worshiping God in our own temple. But where's the proof that any of these supposed Jews today in Israel or anywhere in the diaspora today have ancestry dating back to the story of Hanukkah that happened over 2,000 years ago? Well, conveniently enough, the main heroes of the Hanukkah story, the Maccabees, were from the tribe of Levi, which is the same tribe that Moses and Aaron were from in the Hebrew Bible. The tribe of Levi is the priestly tribe that has been preserved in Ashkenazi, Sephardi, and Mizrahi Jews throughout the past 2,000 years. Ever meet a Jew with the last name of Levi? How about Cohen? Cohen literally means priest in Hebrew, and there's a good reason for that. These patrilineal surnames, and there are plenty more, were intentionally given to Jews with family traditions of having ancestry dating back to Aaron, just as the Maccabees, who later established what is known as the Hasmonean dynasty in the Kingdom of Judah, did in the story of Hanukkah. But since you know that you can't trust those Zionist Jewish shills to keep records of anything, maybe you'll trust DNA studies that identify a common patrilineal genetic marker amongst Jews from Ashkenazi, Sephardi, and Mizrahi communities who have family traditions of descending from Levi and Aaron. Or maybe not.
Do you believe that Israel should have a state of their own?
Yes, I'm not your dhimmi. I'm not going to be under you ever again. I'm never paying you the jizya till I'm sagirun. And I, along with my people, will live as free and equal men to you. We're not going to make you dhimmi, but you're not going to make us dhimmi.
So Rashida Tlaib, just as the Jews during the time of Hanukkah, over 2,000 years ago, were able to overthrow their Syrian Greek occupiers from the tyranny they wished to subjugate us Jews to, we will fight against the Palestinian Muslim tyranny of Sharia law that you and many of your supporters wish upon the Jews in Israel today. We will fight against the apartheid dhimmi system that your religion has attempted to force upon Jews and Christians in Muslim countries for the past 1,000 years and beyond. We will not be your dhimmis, especially in our own holy land of Israel. And please, if you enjoyed the message of this video, please spread the light of Hanukkah by sharing it with others, liking the video, and subscribing to the channel. Happy Hanukkah, and Am Yisrael Chai!